Welcome, everyone, to the Service Lounge. I am your host, Brandon Nixon, and with me today, I told you guys we would be having awesome guest speakers, but we have Jim Phillips, who is the principal at Training Team USA. And Jim, I just want to say thank you for jumping on and welcome to the Service Lounge.
You're most welcome. I'm happy to be here. It's a great day to be able to chat with you and the folks out there in Service Lounge land.
Well, Jim, I know that you and I have had conversations over the last couple months about some of the stuff that you're doing in the industry. And part of why we really wanted to have you on the Service Lounge is I think you bring a lot of wealth of knowledge regarding fixed operations, not only for service directors and service managers, but really from like the GM level of it all. So if you don't mind, for those who are listening on that may not recognize or know your name, I'm sure there's a lot of people who do, but can you give a little background, where you came from, your experience in the industry for people listening on?
Well, sure. I'm the son of a car dealer from Norfolk, Virginia, and in my office where I'm coming from now, that's a picture of my father there that I keep. And he is next to Henry Ford II and Lee Iacocca. And so he was a Lincoln dealer, and we had a Lincoln dealership that I ran for about 15 years and never really dreamed of doing anything other than being a Lincoln dealer in Norfolk, Virginia. So, but we sold our business and I found my way over to NADA and worked for NADA in their academy and in their consulting area for about 15 years. I was in the 20 group program. Then Cox Automotive decided that they wanted to open the Cox Automotive University. And so they recruited myself and I guess 3 or 4 other people from NADA and went over to Cox. And then, of course, the pandemic hit and Cox kind of thought better of it. And they said, maybe we're not. So I in 2022, I opened up my own training deal called Training Team USA, working with clients that I had worked with for a long time. And it's been just a great career working with service managers, general managers, even dealer principals.
Yeah.
We assume sometimes that the general managers and dealer principals know and review their financial statements and know everything about them. Turns out sometimes they need a little help evaluating some of that in their operations.
I always say this, it feels like sometimes the GMs, a lot of GMs who don't look at their financial statements, the one financial statement they often check is the one that hits their bank account every month, right? So that's the way they measure their success at the store. And so you kind of got to go that next level deep. I totally agree.
You do. Brandon, I think it is just that has caused a phenomena in 2025 and over the last few years, because that bank account is looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And because that bank account is looking pretty good, in my opinion, it causes sometimes general managers and dealers to be satisfied with average, because average puts a lot of money in the bank.
Yep.
I mean, there are a lot of franchises that you could just do kind of an average job and you'll make a truckload of money.
Yep.
So, and that's where some dealers are. It's the professional service guys that are always looking to do something more and looking to go to the next level, the proverbial next level.
Well, it's that saying, and I just posted about it recently. But fix the roof while the sun is shining, right?
Yes.
You don't want to be worrying about fixing the roof while it's raining, and that's exactly
right.
the type of situation. I think I agree with you where we're at the last couple years. Obviously, with new car sales, we've seen a little bit of a flat line, even a little bit of a dip because of interest rates. But I think with where the economy is going a little bit now, we're starting to see that increase. Interest rates are coming back down, so what better time than to get your store set up and start analyzing your financial statements, like you said, to get yourself set up for success. So Jim, you, if you don't mind, can you share with the audience from what I understand, you work very closely, or you have worked closely with some of the OEMs in the past. Can you share a little bit
Yeah.
of those OEMs that you've worked with?
Sure. I find myself working with Toyota and Lexus a lot. I've also had a been working with the field team at Kia
Okay.
over the last 3 years. I teach in the training academy with Nissan and have done some work with Subaru and just kind of onesie twosie with other manufacturers, but those are the big ones. And I don't really go out to those other manufacturers and knock on doors because my calendar fills up pretty quickly from the folks that I work with now. I do have a big client down in Puerto Rico in the Hyundai business as well. So
Okay.
I'm kind of in that arena too. So
Well,
uh,
it just goes to show, especially regarding training, if your big customers are like the Toyota and Lexus, those are the brands that are winning right now, right? And they're
mhm.
focusing on training. In my opinion, that says a lot about what they're doing and the success they've been able to have is they're focusing on getting that training executed as well.
Yeah, when you're looking at training and you're evaluating trainers and just training in general, I always look at where is the heart. And when I say where's the heart of my training is for people to take something away and to learn something. I've seen some training out there where it seems like that the training makes it more complicated than it has to be.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated. Just step back and figure out what you want to do. And so I find part of my message is working with general managers and service managers who often don't speak the same language as the dealer.
Okay.
And you're right, the dealer does speak a language born from the financial numbers. They get
Yeah.
that statement once a month and they say, hey, let's look at that statement. And then they'll like, let's say, and I had this happen last year. I had a service manager who was actually performing fairly well. I mean, I would put him on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd put him on about like a 6,
Okay.
but was definitely headed to 7, 8, and he was pretty well focused. When I talked to the dealer's like, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna make a change in service." And I was like, "Wait, what? Why are you gonna what what do you mean? Why are you gonna give her?" Well, this guy just doesn't understand the profitability. So the language that the service leadership was talking and what the dealer was talking were two completely different things.
Hmm.
And once I synced those up with those two, then they both got it, and that guy is still on the way. Now, syncing up, don't wanna make this complicated, I
Yeah.
promise. Look, if you're looking at a financial statements can be daunting because they have so many numbers on them.
Yeah.
But in the end, there are only 3 remedies that you have to getting more profits on a financial statement. And they're the only 3 remedies you have. There are no more, and all remedies that you do will center around one of these 3. They are, number 1, you can increase the gross profit.
Hmm.
Now, most service guys don't need to do that because they got a bump during COVID.
Yeah.
During yeah.
I was gonna say they got more business than they can deal with, right? That's often what you're getting back
Well,
from
and
service
the
managers.
rates went up.
Yep.
The rates went up. I remember when I was in California and I heard of the first effective rate that was $200. And I was like, oh my goodness, $200. Man, that's crazy. Now that won't do any good. And now, of course, it's over 3
Yeah.
and it went up very rapidly. If you are a service manager that's been in a dealership for 3 or 4 years and you find that your gross profit is low, you have not been paying attention
Yeah.
to the market and where things are going. So most of the time, it's not raising the gross. Now, having said that, you have to pay attention to your effective rate, and I mean you have to monitor it and you have to watch it. But I don't run into a lot of stores that have low gross.
Yeah.
The other second one is you can lower expense. Now, this is the common go-to for most dealers. Let's fire somebody.
Yeah.
I I have somebody working now. I don't have somebody working, and my expenses go down.
Yeah.
Um, so, I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but personnel cost is our largest cost,
Labor.
and so a lot of times dealers will look at some of those people as expendable,
Yeah.
but we're in a time where customer service is going to be a larger and larger thing, which means more people.
Mhm.
You you have to be attentive by just having infrastructure. The old days of having like two service advisors and one service manager and a cashier, I mean that's gone. You cannot operate that way. Your customers will not enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
The third way, which is the one that most service managers pick, is to sell more. And selling more is based on the your podcast that I've heard and listened to is what we're talking about. We're talking about marketing, we're talking about appointments, we're talking about throughput, we're talking about proficiency, all of the capacity. These are things that we're always talking about in the training arena because all of those have to do with doing more. And that's really what we have to do.
Yeah. Well, one thing you mentioned that I think's interesting is, and I see it all the time, the disconnect from the service management language to the dealer principal or
Yep.
the ownership language, right? And oftentimes you've got a service manager or service director that is just putting out fires a lot of the times, right? And
Mhm.
those who, like you had mentioned, they're on that like 6 to 7 scale on, how well they are as a manager, they fall victim to putting out fires nonstop, working
Yes.
in the business, not on the business, right? And so when
Right.
they're having that conversation with a general manager or dealer principal who's looking at a financial statement and looking at profitability, it often doesn't mend well because you got one arm in service saying, I need better customer experience, I need more people, and the other arm saying, well, we need to reduce expenses, right? So how
Right.
can you align those conversations to where everybody understands the same vision?
Yeah.
And that's where I think when you can solve that, where everybody mutually understands the vision, you get a lot more execution. It doesn't just apply to the automotive business, it's any business in general, right? You got to have your leaders, your generals out there in line with the vision,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
what you guys are trying to accomplish. And once you do that, then you can start having better dialogue and make decisions that make sense for the overall vision, right?
Yeah. I learned that several years ago. I was working with in the heavy truck industry with a large dealer group. They had 140 rooftops. I got a call from their CEO, and they said, "Jim, I want you to teach our GMs on a course for 2 days." And I was like, "Okay, well, what do you want to train on?" And he said, "I want you to teach them how to ask."
Hmm.
And I said, "How to ask? Well, what do you mean?" Well, the upshot was they're in the roadside assistance business and they had three kinds of trucks. They had a basic, like Ford F 250 roadside truck that was a truck that was, would cost them outfitted like 70 grand.
Yep.
They had another one that was kind of a medium duty that had an air compressor in it, and that was in the 85, 90,000. Then they had the boom truck. They had boom trucks that actually had a crane. I mean, they could
Yeah.
literally take an engine out of a truck on the side of the road. And he said, "Jim, I'm not bragging, but we're a privately owned company, and money is, I mean, we have all the resources that we need. We just don't want a GM saying, 'I'll take 8 of these and 4 of these and 3 of these.' We want them to have a business case that says, 'When we do this, the revenue side will be that.'"
Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of service managers miss it today. Because if you come to ask me as a general manager, "Hey, we need help. We need another service advisor to provide a better guest experience." If I'm a GM, I'm thinking,
Dollars.
Well, that's a bunch of expense. And
Yep.
the answer is no. Well, what service managers will forget to ask is they'll say, no, 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 wait a minute. I want another service advisor. But when I get that, we're going to do this many more hours and we're going to have this much more throughput and we're going to
Yep.
have this much better. They, because if you don't clearly articulate that to senior leadership, it'll never get done. It'll
Absolutely.
never get. So learn how to ask and ask with business cases, and all of our training is surrounded by business cases that not only say, here's how you do it, but when you do it, here's what you're going to make.
Yeah.
Here's going to be the result. And that's powerful.
No, absolutely. I always tell like my leaders, especially when they're coming in to propose a different solution or a new tool that they're bringing in. It's great. I'll take any suggestion you have, right? But just like you said, any senior management or senior level is going to instantly think dollars and cents. What is that going to cost me?
Right.
But if you have the roadmap planned for the ROI on that
Yes.
adjustment, then you're having a completely different conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that. I'm glad that that's part of the training that you have, because I think that that helps to unify that communication between senior leadership and your management level, so that to where you guys can actually get stuff done, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I see oftentimes too, management, especially from a service management level, will get burnout because they feel like, "Well,
Yeah.
I can't do nothing, right? I can't
Yeah.
make all the decisions. Nobody's approving anything moving forward. And so I'm just dealing with what I got. And the bed I'm laying in right now is shitty, right? Just
Yeah.
call it what it is." And then they move on, which instead they could have probably communicated what they needed differently and got more
Yeah.
accomplished if you can unify that communication between both.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is, you're exactly spot on. Mo- I have not been to well, uh, one store in upstate New York I went to, and they actually did need to cut expenses. But
Yeah.
of all of the stores that I've been in, and in the last 3 years, I've been in probably 50 or 60 dealerships. Not one of them needed to reduce expenses, and almost all of them thought they did.
Yeah.
It wasn't reducing expenses, it was adding revenue through the throughput, through getting their systems to work together. And in many, many of those dealerships, there's redundancy with computers. Their computers don't talk to each other, and so
Yeah.
it doesn't make it easier, it makes it harder. And and there's latency, or there's dropping the ball with communications with the customers. I mean, there's and when we start fixing those things, and we get the process, which they all have in their mind, by the way. Everybody
Yeah.
has the process in their mind, but as you said, they have to deal with the hand that they have,
Yeah.
which is the computer they have, the geography. They may have a service drive that's efficient or not efficient. They may have service advisors located in a place that's conducive to doing business or not conducive to doing business. Well, and they have to fix all that in order for it to run smoothly.
Yeah.
So, um, I, I just and my heart goes out to them because it's overwhelming. Many times I talk with service leadership, and they kind of have an idea what they need to they know what they need to do, but they just don't know where to start. It's
Yeah.
like it's Mount Everest. The hill is too high.
Yeah.
And so part of I think what we can do in this industry is to start saying, okay, let's back up. Let's pick one of those three. Is it the gross? Is it the expense? Is it more sales? Most of the time, it's going to be more sales.
Yeah.
Well, when it's more sales, is it actually selling more on the drive, or is it your ability to produce more in with technicians? Okay, no, I've got the drive handled. Our guys sell well on the drive. Well, okay, well then now let's go with proficiency, made up of productivity and efficiency, and let's
Yeah.
let's do that and track that, and let's start there. So don't shoot a gun with buckshot where you're just, it's going everywhere. let's take a few targeted bullet approaches to see if we can make it better.
Yeah, it's the one by one approach, and eventually you'll get yourself in a much better spot, right? But if you try to take everything all at once, you become overwhelmed and you're not able
Yeah.
to execute what you were looking to get done. So
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. So, question I have for you, since you've got a lot of experience in this, we've seen, especially this last year, like I said, with sales kind of leveling out or a little bit dip because of interest rates, we've seen a lot of general managers where it is the first thing in their mind is cut expenses. And unfortunately, where they're cutting the expenses is their highest profit center, the service side of the business, right? And
Yeah.
their margins on service are so high. So how do you, in your initial conversations with the general manager, how do you get them to understand the difference there where a lot of them may not have that experience in service to really view that as one of their key profit
Yeah.
centers at the store?
Yeah. Well, so I believe that there's going to be more and more pressure on the service department to produce gross. And here's why. If you look at what's happened since the pandemic,
Yeah.
right before the pandemic, and it was the first time this had happened, it was in 2019. In 2019, when you looked at gross profit in a dealership, the sales was always more than service. In 2019, it went to 51% of the gross
Yep.
came from fixed operations. Now, in 2020, that went way down. The pandemic took that
Yeah.
way down because the grosses on the car side were much. It took it down to like 35%. I
Yeah.
mean,
Exactly.
because the sales were making so much. Well, it took until May of 24 for it to get back to 50%. And now it's, as of last year, we're at like 53%. So the service department is making over half. It's
Yeah.
no joke. It's not a afterthought of our business. We're going to have to perform. But the way that I try to get people to focus on this, and I did this when I was a 20 group moderator. 20 groups are highly focused on the expense because they look at pages and pages of expenses and comparisons with everybody else in the group. So they spend all this time on expenses. And so I always said, "Hey, guys, look, we can spend as much time as you want on expenses, but we're going to spend the same amount of time on the revenue."
Hmm.
I have one dealer group that I've worked with now for a few years, and they kind of called me this year and said, Jim, we're not going to do the meeting and kind of talk about business because in January we're going to have a meeting on expense control." And I thought, you know what? That is the last thing you
Yeah.
guys need. You need a business on revenue, a meeting on revenue improvement, and it's too bad when people kinda get that vision.
Yeah. No, especially to like kick off the year that way,
Yeah,
it doesn't set the tone for your team in the right direction, right?
yeah,
It sets more of like an afterthought of, oh, we got to save instead of being proactively to build and grow,
right.
right? And
Yeah,
so I agree with you. Focusing on how can we generate the revenue and then the customer experience that's going to drive that revenue is
yeah,
what's so crucial. Because when you start seeing expenses being cut, you start putting pressures on employees to start making bad decisions with their customers. And guess who suffers? The customer
yeah,
experience. And as a result, in the long term, you've got less customers who want to show up because it's, well, that guy oversold me here, or that guy, I really didn't like the way that they interacted with me when I was in service because they're under a different level of pressures that you've just put on the entire organization, right?
yeah,
I've always, from a leadership standpoint, and I've been in many different positions with our company, but the stresses that I feel as a leader, I have to do my best to not trickle that down to the rest of my team. And oftentimes dealers do that and then wonder why their customer experience drops and
yeah,
customers stop showing up and revenue drops, right? You
yeah.
got to protect that, hold the stresses and work through those in ways that's going to motivate the rest of your team so that your customer experience doesn't get affected.
Yeah. The key takeaway in that is you said long term, keywords long term. And we're in a business that monitors itself in 30-day cycles.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are not looking beyond that 30. I need this many hours this month. I've got to do this job right now. And if I take advantage of a couple of customers, well, I made my number for this month. And so getting people to realize the long ball and to really think about that long play is that when you see a service somebody in service leadership that is considering the long play, that is mastery level.
Yeah.
That's when they get it, because they're like, okay, I could act this way and get more within the 30-day cycle, or I could play for the long game and keep moving up and doing it the right way.
Yep. Set yourself up for success over time, right? We can all get that immediate satisfaction, like you said, in that 30-day cycle. We all
Yeah.
know what we can immediately do. You could reduce your expense and fire 2 people really quickly and still hit your number and reduce expense, but look higher,
Right.
right? But then what
Yep.
does that do to you 6 months from now? What does that do to you 2, 3 months from now, right?
Yep.
So, I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Jim, you've provided a lot of great insight here, and I appreciate that. I love this conversation here about really diving into the financial statements a little bit better to identify your profit centers, because I think it's
Yeah.
so crucial and so important for this new year. For those who are listening on, what would you say, Jim, is your one takeaway for the listeners here? The last thing that you'd leave everybody with who are listening on for it.
Figure out what the way is for you. Is it, and pick one of those three. Is it reduce expense? Is it improve the gross? Is it more sales? Generally, it's going to be more sales. And then pick the thing, and then you start with either the service drive processes or the technician processes. Whichever one you need to focus on, go for it, fix it, and consider the long ball while you're doing it.
I love it. I love it. Make that one-on-one shot and don't just shoot that buckshot and destroy everything, because you can't hit
That's
everything at
it.
once. I love it.
That's it.
Well, Jim, appreciate you jumping on. For everybody listening on, thank you guys for listening on. This is a great episode, and I think a great kickoff for the early part of this year. So, Jim, we'll have you on future episodes for sure. But I wish you the best. And if anybody's listening on is interested in training Team USA, definitely reach out to Jim. He'll be a great help for you. But thanks again so much, and hope you have a great weekend, Jim.
Thank you, Brandon. Take care. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Sounds good.